Rob, I am so thrilled to have you here in Voices of Stack. And I'm so excited to hear your perspective and to tell your story. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to share.
Okay. So you were in our web development program and you actually started before the pandemic started.
A little bit
So
before.
yeah, so you have a really interesting perspective.
Mhm,
Um, and
mhm.
now you're working full time. Tell us more about your full time gig.
Yeah, so right now, full-time front-end engineer. Some good things are in line, and honestly, I haven't been happier about work. Honestly, don't think I've ever been happy about work.
That's so wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that for the first time ever, work like makes you happy. Like it's something in which you get up in the morning and you're like really excited. Okay, I've got a slew of questions for you that I'd love to get your perspective on. The first one is, how did you surprise yourself during the program?
The way I think that I surprised myself specifically was more in my networking with the cohort.
Ooh.
Uh, Naturally, I'm an introverted person, so having to interact with people and having to talk to people that I've known for not long is not always a fun thing for me and can get very anxiety inducing. Um, so I think with the people that I had talked to at the start, it just like helped smooth things over. And then the people that I like talked to frequently, there was always just like good vibes and always just like happy to be there, excited to. Yeah, I think that was the biggest surprise to me, just how easygoing it was to just talk to all the cohort members.
That gives the introverts out there hope. Now, thinking back on the program, beyond the technical skills, what are one to two other things that you learned?
Oh, actually, working in a collaborative environment that's not in person. That
Mm,
was something I never experienced.
mm.
And with everything that's still going on, there's a lot of places that are still remote. So it's still all online. So going from a job where my work was strictly in person, there was no way to not do that in person. And then having to transition to this thing that was kind of hybrid that became fully remote, that was transformative because it got me to see like all these different facets of things that had to be set up just right to work well, which was interesting and definitely at times a little chaotic. But when things ran smooth, they ran smooth. That's great.
So let's make it more tangible. There are group projects that are a part of our
Mhm.
program, right? Like it's very important to take what you learn in the classroom, be able to put it into practice with the real world company, and also, learn to work with folks collaboratively. But a question we get is, what's that like? A lot of people are like, I'm used to doing group projects in person, right? Now I have to be online. Is it a really terrible experience? I mean, is it? Like, what's it like?
I personally didn't think it was terrible. Um, I think that comes from my adaptability, though, of like being
Mm.
able to go to different things and be like, okay, this is how we're doing it here. Okay, I understand. Oh, we're doing it differently. Okay.
People talk about how frustrating the group and industry projects are. But it was also like the biggest learning for them on like so many different facets and so many different levels.
Yes. And to expand on something a little bit too, it's also not just being willing to talk, willing to listen and setting aside egos. But if you have people that are reaching out to you, don't just blow them off, like actually answer them, even if it's a I don't know. That'll be so excuse me. That'll help out a lot too. 'Cause it's like, okay, I don't know this, but maybe we can work together and figure it out. It's not always easy to talk to them. But if you have that good communication, it eases up so much.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. It's so funny. The word communication I feel like a lot of people dismiss it. They're like, of course I can communicate. But actually it's quite nuanced and hard, and you have to alter your
Mm.
communication style for like different people.
So I had to learn how to talk to various different people from like little kids to adults.
Hmm.
So that's been a big help for me with that.
That's awesome. That's so, so awesome. Thank you for sharing that, because I think, you know, we started on group projects, but it focused on, we kind of turned to like communication and how important it is, but it is such a key skill, and even more so when working collectively and especially online.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Why did you choose this program over others? Because I know that you've had experience before. You had done it in high school and in college, so I'm sure you looked at other programs. What made you choose, if you can remember, this program versus others?
So I did look at one other program, and I
Mm,
had actually started the process with them before I believe before I even knew about Stack Education.
mm,
And effectively, the email I got was a little wordier than this, but it was basically, we didn't like your interview skills. We're not moving forward with you. It was a fun one to hear. Yeah, it was really interesting, especially after the talk that I had with the person
yeah.
who didn't give much negative feedback. It was just like, hey, here's some things about interviews for the future. But other than that, you did good. So it was like nothing steamed it. And I was just like, okay, that's great. Um, cool. So what ended up happening around that same time, my ex was actually looking at doing some tech stuff, and she ended up looking and finding Stack Education and had actually talked to Rich.
Oh,
So she's the one that presented that one to me at the time, because like, okay, this thing didn't work out, but what about this? And then having talked with Rich, I think that's actually I really only talked with Rich. I don't think I talked to anyone else at the time. But having talked to him and knowing at that time like that was what I wanted to do, to be just straight honest, is more of, for me, I just want to get into programming and break that barrier. And Stacked Education won out.
well, it's funny how things work out, because
Yes.
again, like, I know that the program was really transformative for you, and that even after you graduated, you continued to, give back and contribute as a TA. And so um, I think it worked out well.
Yes.
Nice. Um, something that you've talked about quite a bit already, but I want to dive deeper into is the community piece, because the community,
Mhm.
the student experience, the peer experience, I think is so key. I think it's key in any educational environment, if I were to be really honest. You
Mhm.
know, um, so tell me about what that was like for you, the community and the student and peer experience for you in our program.
I think my cohort got very lucky. I don't know if saying that everyone else was extroverted would be correct, but I think, wow, voice today. I
You're
think
getting choked up thinking about them.
yes, I do miss them. I keep meaning to actually reach out to a lot of them,
Yeah.
or like the entire cohort in our Slack channel. Um, so shout out to all of you guys. Uh, everyone was very open and very like just relaxed with talking, and like didn't see anything as overly scary, but were kind of intimidated by some things, and also willing to learn and wanting to learn, but not just from like an instructor or TA, just like anyone. Like, I distinctly remember the Slack channel for, I think it was questions. We would always just ask random questions of that, like, hey, this is something I'm doing. Is there a better way or not? Or like, how would I set up this file structure? Like, I
Mm,
could do it this way or this way. What are your guys' thoughts? So I think having open questions that aren't just like a strict one person gives an answer done,
yeah.
or hey, how do you do a console.log statement, for example, for this? You don't have like, there's only one answer. we're going to save the answer for someone else to do.
Mhm.
It was a lot of the time questions that were like, what do you guys like? Do you guys have pets? How do we structure our folders? Things like that. It was just never, or rarely was just a distinct, this is the question, there's only one answer. I think that helps out a lot because then you have this, not just like talk about school, but you're also getting to know everyone personally. And that's huge. Being able to not just learn how to communicate with the other people, but also learning to work with them. And a lot of the people in my cohort specifically had all those same like thoughts, or like, okay, I want to work with someone here. Whoever it is that I'm working with, I'm going to work with, regardless of if they were helping them or if they were getting help with the other person. So always communication, going back to that, there's always talks. And just having that openness with everything almost was pretty vulnerable for everyone and good for everyone. And then also just be like, I'm gonna take a chance. Let's see what happens.
I love this. Okay, so I'm going to end with this. Why stack? One word.
Oh,
Why
one word.
stack? Yeah, one word. Why stack?
Oh, we got a strange word. It's gonna be chaos, specifically because life is chaos. Not everything runs smoothly, but learning how to deal with the chaos, especially if you're going to actually get into a development job, there's going to be chaos. It's just going to happen. But learning how to deal with that and having other people around you that are learning that at the same time, that helps out so much because then you can just lean on them and be like, hey, I'm so lost. What do I do? Uh, and I've never actually looked at chaos as being a negative. I've always looked at it as more neutral, sometimes leaning positive, but learning to work with the chaos can help you set yourself apart so easily because it's easy to get bogged down in so many different details and hyper focus on just one when there's 1,000 going on. But if you can learn to pick out the organization in the chaos, then it's not chaotic anymore. uh, how was it? I wish I remembered the quote, but there's a quote about having controlled chaos. And it was something that I used to remember and used to like a lot. But I'm definitely a believer in controlled chaos, and I definitely I'm a proponent and push towards controlled chaos because yeah, chaos can be bad, but if you let it get bad, it's only going to get worse from there. So learning how to cut it off, but also work with it rather than forcing it in another direction is also super helpful.
It's a beautiful analogy. Some might say it's like people surfing, right? You have to like when you go with the waves versus trying to
Yes.
go against the waves.
Yep.
It's a very, very different outcome. So I
Yes.
absolutely love the chosen word and the explanation. Rob, I am so grateful for you sharing your memories, your inspirations, your energy. And I'm hoping that people watching this that are, you know, fighting the chaos that is inevitable in everyone's lives are inspired by your story and think about taking a step towards learning how to control that chaos
Hope so.
and bettering themselves. So thank you so much, Rob. We're
Thank
grateful.
you. It's grateful to be a part of this, not just the video, but also Stack Education.
You're so wonderful, Rob.